You guys gave me so much love to the first analysis of episode 1, so here we are again for episode 2 of season 1 of the Tower of God anime. The goal of this video, again, is the same as last time, is to see what was actually cut, what was enhanced with additions, and what sort of potential impacts it has for world building and storytelling of this series. It's obvious that, things have to be cut for an adaptation, but this is less of a negative critique, more on what effects these cuts/changes have. I decided not to count the panels this time because they didn't really add to my point last time. So for this episode, the studio adapted from about half of chapter 6 to half of chapter 11. Again, this is spoilery, so you've been warned. Now, let's begin. So I'm gonna talk about the ending briefly. It looks like we see Rachel, who's dirty in white clothes, which kind of threw me off. Like, where is this from? But I'm glad at least they didn't just use a black screen for the credits this time, so it's whatever. And another thing, the title of the episode could have been enhanced a little more. Maybe if they put at the ending of the episode showing Rachel and her two teammates wiping out a test arena of 400 regulars until they were only standing. Because in reality, Kun, Rak, and Bomb are 3 out of maybe 120 or maybe even less after the pre-test of Leave a Row, but it's whatever. The title is fine. So for the beginning of this episode, we actually start with chapter 5. A few panels because they took the flashback about what fighting means and threw it in the beginning of this episode. Kind of refreshed the viewer's memories on what Bomb's reason is to climb the tower. We get the word conflict instead of fight, but that doesn't really make too much of a difference in meaning. The essence of this scene is that if anyone hurts/hates Rachel, Bomb will do anything to save her, which we'll see in a lot of instances coming up. Not in this episode, but in future episodes. A few examples are at the end of the crown game in round 5, and the bull attacking Bomb and Rachel in the bubble at the end of the season. To what lengths does Bomb go for Rachel is foreshadowed with this flashback. The line in the anime, "Everything I felt belonged to Rachel," is again very similar in meaning to the webtoon when Bomb says everything I felt was all from her. And it's great that they kept this because it makes a key difference as to how Bomb feels about Rachel. He views her more as a savior and a motherly figure than a lover or crush. And this line encapsulates that feeling that Bomb has for Rachel in both mediums, both in the webtoon and anime, which is well done. One part of the flashback that may have added more foreshadowing in the anime is a panel where Bomb says, "I've been with you for a long time and I've never hated you." And the way Bomb asks and answers the questions that Rachel poses in the flashback in the webtoon seems to come from his own thought process, while in the anime, Rachel basically answers the questions for him, which to be honest kind of fits how Rachel shapes his worldview, so it comes off as a little spoon feeding, but it's okay. Bomb is nothing without Rachel as of this point, so it's not too hard of a leap to say that Rachel would answer these questions for Bomb. So chapter 6. The panels were shown in a different order in the anime, but I don't think it was bad at all actually. It was amazing. The anime did really well with how they pace this chapter's sequences. Chapter 6 and 7 kind of merged together with shifting the Anak versus Hots fight to after Bomb and Kun join to be a team. In the webtoon, Rock actually calls Kun a white turtle twice before switching to blue turtle, which I feel like that's probably a translation error, but I'm glad that Rock starts off by calling Kun blue turtle. The rage from Rock in the anime that leads to Rock looking down on both Kun and Bomb is great positioning, and the used spear with kind of like cracks and dents in it that Rock holds adds a lot of character to it. A little bit of the end of chapter 5 when Kun talks about being controlled by the rules that was absent in the first episode was added here to directly counter Rock's point to hunt Bomb. Although we don't get the full bit, there's enough in there to show that Kun is doing the exact opposite of what the test implicitly is asking for. How the anime weaves that into Rock getting annoyed from Kun's talks is great and actually gives Kun a reason to leave. In the webtoon, Kun was already on the way out, so when Rock enters, Kun can just nonchalantly leave. But in the situation is remedied a little with Rock attacking Kun in the anime. As Kun leaves to look back, we get a lot of changes in the anime, for the better actually. Because of the addition of the Jihad crest on the Black March in episode 1, Kun can easily identify it compared to how in the webtoon, Kun had to get real close to read the engraving Black March on the hilt of the needle. Instead of the more bothered and worried excuse to rejoin the fight, Kun has a more excited and curious look to come back and save Bomb in the anime. Although we don't get the extra panel from the webtoon where Rock explicitly states that he wants to fight the weapon that Bomb is holding, this is made pretty obvious in the anime because of how shaky and helpless Bomb looks, implying that the sword is what Rock is drawn to. The double take to go behind the Diane was great because that was what was taken out at the end of the first episode because of the slow moment that followed after it. Now that slow moment fits perfectly in this second episode because they just avoided Rock, and it logically leads leads to introductions. The cut in the anime to Yuri, cut as in the transition to the anime to Yuri bullying Evan on some broken stairs looks clean. Why couldn't have this been added to the first episode? So it looks like Yuri just doesn't come out of nowhere. It's a shame, but whatever. The questioning about the Black March is good, and I liked how they tied that with the flashback to the first episode, and Bomb's response in the anime is a little better than the webtoon. In the anime, he says, she let me borrow it, and in the webtoon, he just kind of hesitates saying, there are a lot of other panels in the webtoons that adds to the extreme nature of Bomb having this weapon. Like Kunz says, regular or ordinary rankers spend their entire lives without seeing it, but they haven't introduced the concept of a ranker yet in the series, so it's okay. And we already know how important of a weapon is, from Yuri handing it over to Rock, and Rock hunting Bomb, so we don't need this extra qualifier. What we are missing is Kunz's thoughts on Bomb. An important line that brings out Bomb's personality through Kunz's words was in that slow moment with the dying. Bomb chooses to be vague about where Bomb is from when Kun asks Bomb, and Kun actually likes this because Kun understands that Bomb is the truthful type, and that Bomb could have lied if he didn't want Kun to know. And that initial interaction in my eyes is what leads to Kun saying, screw it, I'm gonna climb up the tower with Bomb. And we miss that in the anime because we don't get that, but I mean, it's okay. There's enough curiosity and enough intrigue in Bomb that gets Kun to logically say, hey, I mean, it doesn't hurt to make him a teammate. So time for chapter 7, we get the Hots versus Anak fight. The anime does an amazing job, and will probably continue to do an amazing job with fight scenes in this first season. The fact that Anak is on the rock to begin with in the anime allows Hots to utilize his unique sword style, one highest flying sword and lowest flying sword, whereas in the webtoon, they're on the same ground, so there isn't any point in using the highest flying sword. What's missing is the proximity of Shibusu in the initial fight, so that we can see that Shibusu isn't all talk and can dodge moves. But it's okay, he'll have his time to prove his worth in the crown game. Also, Shibusu in general was done wonderfully this episode, and easily the highlight next to Rock. I really like the line that was added in the anime that Bomb says he probably hasn't killed anyone before, adding to the mystery of what he was before he met Rachel. And again, we get another clarification by Bomb that he belongs to Rachel, and that Rachel is not his girlfriend. And this actually leads right to Kun talking about stuff about how not following rules. And it's great that they added this transition to Rock entering back into the scene just as Bomb talks about how cool or important / interesting Rock would be as a teammate compared to Bomb. So in chapter 8, we have a lot of cuts that I felt were important to the progression of the story and foreshadowing that went missing. The whole strike at Kun that was added to make it a more proper finale of the first test compared to in the webtoon. Rock is just yelling nearby as the first test ends. Now in the anime, Rock is literally on top of Bomb and Kun and kind of forces them, because of their proximity, to be teammates. Instead of in the webtoon, Rock just so happens to be the closest person to Bomb and Kun. I actually really liked the panel in the webtoon of the menacing Rock over Bomb and Kun on one half of the panel, and then the other half of the panel it's menacing Hots and Anak over Shibusu. But again, that panel was a really good transition to the rest of the chapter in the webtoon, and sadly wouldn't really work that well in the anime as a transition. The one thing about Bomb stepping in between Kun and Rock is that Bomb didn't actually ask the question, what do you mean by hunt, in the anime. Rock just tells them everything. The question is important because of Bomb's inquisitive nature, right? Because Bomb doesn't know what turtles are or what hunting is and why it's so important to Rock. Also, in the first episode, Bomb was eating some grass, right? Like, Bomb doesn't know anything. So that question is actually a way of Bomb trying to understand what Rock values. Another thing that we miss in the anime is that in the webtoon, Bomb actually smiles as he drops the weapon and continues to smile in Rock's face, knowing that this is exactly what was bound to happen. Like, Rock will not attack Bomb, and Bomb knew it. But in the anime, Bomb has more of a hesitant face, which doesn't convey as much confidence in this plan as he actually has. A lot more was changed or cut after this. It was a good thing that the part about Rock not caring about what floor he's on to hunt some prey is good, because it embodies the Kunz philosophy of screwing the rules and doing whatever you want. They cut down on the time of fighting from, I think, 55 seconds to 10 seconds in the anime, and they take out a critical panel in the webtoon where Kun says, we we have no choice, we need to catch him, showing that Bomb actually understands a plan is set into motion, and Rock is strong and intimidating, especially when he says catch who while going crazy. Another missed foreshadowing is the panel where Kunz says we have 3 here already, but the panel shows his briefcase. Again, that's because there's 3 people in the briefcase and there's a team already. But again, I mean, we see this foreshadowing in the wall test or the wall pretest, so it's not totally lost, I guess. Also, we have Rock take a shot at Bomb, and it's Kun that bails him out in the webtoon by using a knife to change the trajectory of the spear, and because the spear is extended, Rock can't do anything as Bomb runs straight on to catch Rock. In the anime, Kun attempts to redirect Spear by covering Rock's eyes, which in theory is a good move, but the covering actually takes place after Rock throws the spear, so tape blocking his eyesight does absolutely nothing. And it also looks like Bomb instinctively actually dodged the spear without any assistance. In the webtoon, we get a panel back in I want to say chapter 5, where it shows Bomb being nimble and quick, but that was taken out in the anime. This kind of makes Bomb a little more competent than he actually is, and adds a little more to the inconsistency of Bomb as a character. Is he strong or weak? I think the webtoon makes it seem that Bomb is strong at heart but needs time to learn, so in the meantime he gets lucky or finds strong people to help him, and that's kind of dampened in the anime because of these sudden bursts of, intelligence, brilliance, and tactics by Bomb, because he got no guidance on what to do here. Compared to in the webtoon, it clearly shows that Kun is the one guiding the actions that Bomb is taking. Granted, this does make Bomb a stronger main character, but we'll see Bomb weak and useless again in the next episode, so I feel like it can confuse the viewers. It would have been fine to have a pocket during this entire time to show the countdown to the 5-minute timer, like in the webtoon, but again, the music by Kevin Penkin tells us the urgency of the situation, so it's alright. Now, on to chapter 9. In the anime, we actually get the building that they called as Evancole's mothership. In the spirit of the anime, and it's been taking out a lot of the mystery of irregulars or characters that aren't going to be found in the first season. I'm surprised they kept Evancole's name so early. In the anime, we get to see the yellow money-hungry chick with her knight, but they don't really get any speaking lines, which is fine because they aren't that important. We get more facial expressions and movement from Shibusu, which is awesome. The red-winged guy got a little more hype in the webtoon for taking out people, taking out everyone that he saw. It served as a pretty good counter to Rock, who also attacked everyone he saw. But again, no talking points here in the anime, which is again fine because that red-winged guy isn't that relevant. In the webtoon, Kun says that there's more than 100 past, and the anime changes that to 120, or basically 40 teams, which is perfectly normal change because it allows the viewers to understand how many people actually survived. It sucks that we don't get to see the panel where Kun is holding Rock's hands as they walk around, because I think it would have been a pretty funny moment. But we get an even more grounded scene that's new, where Kun calms Rock down because they don't want to reveal that Bomb has the Black March. The Black March wrapped up is a really great addition so that it doesn't draw too many eyes too soon in the series for that weapon. In the webtoon, the Black March almost disappears until it comes back into the crown game. By using the Black March as a point of reference for how strong the other regulars are is a great way to transition in the anime. It makes the other regulars a threat while keeping Rock quiet. And we even get Kun trying to bond with Rock. There isn't too much talkback to Liroro by the red-haired guy, but Liroro, especially with the voice actor as Overhaul from My Hero Academia, makes it hard to talk back to him because of the kind of presence he holds, so it's fine. We get the introduction to a ranker from the webtoon, straight from the webtoon to the anime, which is great. The way that Liroro explains why we need a pretest because too many pass is good because we don't really get that explanation in the webtoon. All Liroro says in the webtoon is, let's do a pretest. Also in the webtoon, we don't really see all the regulars getting pushed back by Shinso as well as we do in the anime. Shinso kind of looks like a tsunami, which is fine. The subtitles say that everyone uses this water, which is kind of wrong because Shinso is more than just water, but I'm sure this will get cleared up when we get to the positioning test and we see the other ways that people use Shinso. They removed the random glasses dude from the webtoon just to make Levin asking the questions about what if one member of the team fails, and that's okay. And I think the luck speech is fine, especially since it was overlapped with Kunz talking, so they could cut down on the amount of time that the speech took. took. I think if the anime did the same thing at the end as the webtoon and just did a close-up of Liroro's eyes instead of a black screen when Liroro says a monster has appeared, would have been a little better, but again, that's a little minor thing. Alright, chapter 10. We get a little more of a cheerful Bomb as he accepts the game that Liroro presents him in the webtoon, and it's a shame that Bomb isn't as excited in the anime because he should be excited since he thinks that he'll get more info about the reason he climbs the tower, Rachel. But this is fine since they do a really good thing in the anime by having both Bomb and Liroro pick the same exact time, adding to Bomb's intuition more so than in the webtoon. In the webtoon, Liroro picks and then Bomb picks the same person afterwards, and it kind of feels weird. The picking in the anime was at the exact same time, which is a great choice because it doesn't change the outcome since Liroro will still answer Bomb's questions, but it makes Bomb a little cooler and a little smarter. Instead of showing the lighthouse splitting up as Liroro explains the tower, we get a cut to people trying to pass the wall, which is okay because we don't really go into the 3 sections of the walls in the first season, so it's kind of unnecessary world building at this point. They took out the naming of the irregulars, just like when Yuri should have said it in episode 1 but doesn't, so they're continuing to shroud the irregulars in mystery, which I want to say is fine if they did the same thing to Evanco, because neither Evanco or any of the irregulars that they drop appear in the first season, so why name drop them at all? But they kept Evanco's name, so it's a little confusing. I think Bomb's question of, is there a way I can meet them, and Liroro answering of, yeah, go up, was good in the webtoon because it adds a secondary desire to Bomb to meet people like himself, which is important if the whole Rachel thing doesn't work. But that's taken out in the anime, so no plan Bs for Bomb. And then we get to probably one of the biggest points of contention in this episode, Levin getting clapped out of the test, or out of the pre-test. So in the webtoon it was some rando, but the anime decides that Levin isn't the one, or the anime decides that Levin is the one because it kind of makes sense for his really arrogant and cocky attitude for taking on Rock, but there are repercussions for the rest of the season. At first I didn't think it was that deep throw out Levin, but after reading through the rest of the season again in the webtoon, yeah, I still don't think it really matters. But let's break it down. So after this pre-test in the webtoon, Levin appears in about 8 other chapters, which is actually a pretty good bit for a minor character. He appears in 22 when he takes a shot at Bomb in the crown game, in 28 when we see that he's a contender for the light bearer position, in 42 when he says that the test area for the hide and seek has a lot of pressure, in 46 where he rages to Rachel when the plan is falling apart, in 48 when he gets clapped by Quant for joining the revolution, in 57 when he gets to be the top 2 seed for the light bearer position, in 60 when he talks about the threat of the bull, and then in 69 where he just kind of yells at the animals to fight. Other than one place in chapter 57, all the other spots can be replaced because they're all minor exchanges, so any other character could also do this. It's not a big deal. I'll probably make a separate video on Levin so that this video doesn't get too long. It's already getting a little long, but I don't think it's a big deal that Levin is gone since he doesn't really add that much to the table in season 1. I know that a few people actually liked him. Alright, so chapter 11. We only get about 40% of chapter 11 that got adapted into this episode. The one line that was missed from the webtoon in Liroro's speech, in 11 in this case, that would have been a little stronger is that you weren't, so instead of saying you weren't chosen, I'm sorry, the webtoon says those who don't qualify should get lost, which I think is important for the meaning it has for Rachel and why Liroro actually leaves the test center at the end of the season. His philosophy is that there shouldn't be extra advantages when taking a test, and people that can't qualify should get out of the way, which is the opposite of what Rachel does, who Rachel isn't worthy to climb but still does climb with help, and there's no luck in play here. There is another line about limits that Liroro talks about in the webtoon where he says that God appears and tells you that this is your limit, even though there's many things that you still want to do and have. And in the webtoon, this transitions directly to the talk of Bomb and if Bomb deserves to climb the tower, which is ironic because Bomb doesn't really have any limits. In the anime, it goes from bullying Levin to that talk, which isn't as profound in my head. The foreshadowing for Kun's bag is still in the anime, and I like the little remark that Rock says to Kun in the anime, which adds to the new interactions we see between these characters, only in the anime, which is great. The ending of this pretest in the webtoon would have been a perfect ending for the anime, where Shibusu and the other old hag steps over Laurel, because that would have been a pretty fun end, but it's okay if they didn't add that, since in the anime, Laurel is kind of way further away from them as they pass through the wall. wall. And the episode ends with Yu Han-sung saying Kun's full name, which adds to the intrigue of what's so special about Kun, which is great and something that they added in the anime, which is awesome. Well, that's all for my analysis. Again, I want to point out, I don't hate the choices that the directors made for this episode, because again, it's hard to choose what needs to be taken out and what needs to be added to make the story whole. Just my thoughts on this episode. That's all for the video. If you get a chance, subscribe to get access to these reviews every week. My social media can be found by searching Inspirational on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch. On Twitter, I actually put a little thread so that you could see the kind of screenshots of the episode that I found were pretty cool. Shout out to my designer. You can find his work on Instagram at chatandv_photography. Shout out to my editor. You can find him on Twitter at youngobesity. See you all next time.